Hello, it's Sunday school. Once again, it just seems like yesterday was Sunday school. Anyway, I posted a painting that Constance painted a couple of years back on my Facebook page, and it shows Jesus or the Christ, okay, with the kind of the Sacred Heart and a quote from the Beatles on it. Let's see if I can make sure I get it correctly. I am he as you are he, as you are me, and we are all together. Let's see. I am he as you are me, and we are all together. It's perfect. Okay. Now, it's not completely unusual that once a person becomes aware of synchronicities and the hint that the universe or providence or God is talking to you in signs and visions and omens and license plates and things like that. Now, you may easily sort of knee-jerk say, well, that's just, you're going crazy. You're like that poor unfortunate fellow on the street shouting all of these connections in strange poetic language and stuff. And maybe there's a little of that in there for sure. But there was a time in not only American culture, but all over the world, and I'm just not being an old-fashioned hippie, well, maybe I am. But there was a strange awakening, an awareness, and it started to seep in to cultural consciousness just about the time of people recognizing the absurdity of the escalation of the Vietnam War, the absurdity of the Cold War, things like there's many things we can attribute it to, but one of the most dramatic things we can attribute it to is the introduction of psychoactive chemicals, mind-expanding drugs, the work of Dr. Alpert, the work of Dr. Hoffman, the work of Dr. Leary. And I'm not blaming it all on the psychedelics themselves, but the psychedelics in coordination with an awakening that was already taking place in, I have to say, human consciousness at the time. And the psychedelics just sort of brought that to the forefront. But there was a golden moment there, and it's happened before. As a matter of fact, it happens regularly, if infrequently. That kicks off what some people call the axial periods of civilization. And we went through one of those, and it was dramatic. And it didn't last long, but while it lasted, it was amazing. Now, Rabbi Ben Clifford says in his, I guess it's his 10th command rant, look hard enough at anything, and you'll eventually see everything. Now, the first people in any civilization, in any culture, in any time period, the first people that are sensitive to this shift are the artists in the community. the poets, the musicians, the actors, the artists, because they're already primed for it. And it's the artists that first exhibit the effects of these periods. I think it was Plato or Socrates that said, when the mode of the music changes, the walls of the city shake. Well, the mode of the music did change in that time period. And Constance and I both were miraculously blessed to be in a pretty strong mainstream of that current. We both graduated from high school in '66. I had already been primed sort of on a social justice background with the civil rights movement and the anti-war movement at the time. So I was already kind of sensitive to, I wanted all my music to mean something. Sure, melody's important. Sure, the arrangements and orchestration are a wonderful art form. But if the song didn't mean something, I really didn't have any use for it. And that's kind of one of the reasons that Charlie D and myself got our record contract. We wrote our own stuff, and to us it meant something. And it meant something on a spiritual dimension too. And if it was done artfully enough, it would be something that a person could look at hard enough to eventually see everything. Listen to these Beatles lyrics, okay? Because the Beatles were the forefront of, they were like the hub of this whole art explosion. And it especially really went to obvious extremes with Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band and the Magical Mystery Tour. And they were lucky enough to be so popular in the whole world that anything that they would come up with, anything that they were inspired or moved to come up with, even if it meant changing the mode of the music, they did. Now, look hard enough at anything, you'll eventually see everything. I'm not saying that the Beatles set to work and said, well, let's write this as an allegory for the great mother goddess in Bina. Yes, the great mother goddess across the abyss. Ah, she loves you. Yeah. J-A, Yod, hey. Yeah, she loves you. Yeah. Lady Madonna. I don't think they did that, but we were ready to see that message in what they did do. And finally, when Sgt. Pepper came out, it was 20 years ago today. Sgt. Pepper taught the band to play. Now, we all know that Aleister Crowley was on the cover of Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, standing right beside Sri Yukteswar, who was the guru of Paramahansa Yogananda, who was there too, and whose guru was Lahirish Maishai, who was Also on the cover of Sgt. Pepper's, along with Aleister Crowley and Oscar Wilde and Mae West. What's going on here? It was 20 years ago today. So 20 years ago from April 27th, or whenever the official release day, 1967. Yeah. 20 years ago, almost to the day before that, Aleister Crowley died. Not only that, but Aleister Crowley, as a visible cultural personality, had more or less been long dead and forgotten for 20 years. Very few disciples carried on his work in any sort of meaningful way. Even Carl Germer, the head of the OTO, stopped initiating right after Crowley died in 1947 and focused on publishing. And bless his heart, a few things got published. But Crowley, as a personality, as an influence, lay dormant for 20 years. Then 20 years ago today, Sgt. Pepper taught the band to play. Not that I thought they were thinking that, but if you're looking hard enough at anything, you'll eventually see everything. Listen to some of these lyrics in some Beatles songs. And the first one, The Fool on the Hill. If I got a Fool card handy here, I'll show you, but no, I don't. Day after day, alone on a hill. The fool's on a hill. Cliff. Man with a foolish grin is keeping perfectly still. He's the Lord of Silence, Hippocrates. Nobody wants to know him. They can see that he's just a fool. And he never gives an answer. But the fool on the hill sees the sun going down. And the eyes in his head see the world spinning round. Well on the way, head in a cloud, the man of 1,000 voices, talking perfectly loud, but nobody ever hears him, or the sound he appears to make, and he never seems to notice. But the fool on the hill sees the sun going down, and the eyes in his head see the world spinning round, and nobody seems to like him. They can tell what he wants to do, and he never shows his feelings. But the fool on the hill, okay, the same chorus, and he never listens to them. He knows that they're the fool, and they don't like him, the fool on the hill. Okay, round and round and round and round. Now, sure, you can say that it was pretty clear that the Beatles were studying under Maharishi Maharishi. I'll get it. At the time. And it's, well, they're talking about their guru. And they might as well have been. But for an audience, for an ear that is prepared to hear everything in anything the ear hears is everything. Sort of like the almost omnipotent potential power that a young magician has a beginning magician, a neophyte, because they don't know the limits, or in their minds there are no limits to the power. So for all intent and purposes, there are no limits to the power. Same way, when you are prepped to hear everything and anything, you will hear everything and anything. But it really is helpful when you got artists like the Beatles and other artists of that time period. It gets overt here. We're talking about the space between us all, and the people who hide themselves behind a wall of illusion never glimpse the truth. Then it's far too late when they pass away. We're talking about the love we all could share when we find it, to try our best to hold it there with our love. With our love, we could save the world if they only knew. Try to realize it's all within yourself. No one else can make you change. And to see you're really only very small and life flows on within you and without you. We were talking about the love that's gone so cold and the people who gain the world and lose their souls. They don't know. They can't see. Are you one of them? When you've seen beyond yourself, then you may find peace of mind is waiting there. And the time will come when you see we're all one, and life flows on within you and without you. Now, that's good stuff. Okay. Words are flowing out like endless rain into a paper cup. They slither wildly as they slip away across the universe. Pools of sorrow, waves of joy are drifting through my opened mind, possessing and caressing me. Jai Guru Deva Om. Now we're getting overtly out there, in there. Okay. Nothing's going to change my world. Okay. I am he, as you are he, as you are me, and we are all together. Okay. And of course, there's love is all you need. I'll talk about that in a second. It was 20 years ago today, Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band was released. It was arguably, or 20 years ago from Crowley's death, it was arguably the most anticipated piece of musical art in human history. And its magnificently colorful album jacket was, for a time, one of the most recognizable works of modern visual art in the world. Designed by pop artist Peter Blake, the cover was an orderly collage of 62 of the Beatles' People We Like. In the top row, sandwiched between Hindu holy man Swami Sri Yukteswar, Giri, and Mae West, beams the unmistakable visage of Aleister Crowley. Beatles fanatics, and they were and are legion, dissected every word of every cut of that historic album in hopes to uncover secret political messages or spiritual truths. They also spent countless hours trying to identify every face on the cover and ponder why the Beatles would number that person among People We Like. It was easy to guess why they would include holy men, hipsters, and heroes, personal friends and movie stars. Everyone in the collage seemed to be someone most any of us would like. Everyone, that is, except Aleister Crowley. Of all 62 people we like, Aleister Crowley was the only one with a patently evil reputation. But some of us wanted to know more about this man. I'm not suggesting that the Beatles consciously contrived to resurrect a worldwide interest in Aleister Crowley. I truly believe that one or more of them, most likely John Lennon, simply knew enough about Crowley to warrant his inclusion. Nonetheless, since 1967, interest in Crowley has mushroomed. Currently, there are no less than 7 biographies in print, 3 published in just the last 3 years. His written works, which until the mid-1970s were few and nearly impossible to find, are now available everywhere and translated into many languages. Now, I've got a real short chapter in My Life of the Spirits, and it was my great pleasure to, for the first time, hear that chapter read by John Waters, the voice actor who recorded the audio version of My Life with the Spirits. And so I got to hear it afresh, interpreted by someone who is probably of the age I was when I wrote that chapter, and my description of an event that occurred to a much younger Lon. If you've read My Life with the Spirits, I really encourage you to get the audiobook too. It, at least for me, it was a treat. That was sweeter than I ever expected it to be. But anyway, I wrote in chapter 8 of a spiritual event that occurred to me just shortly after we moved to Oregon to be country hippies in 1967. I believe it still was 7 or 8. While Constance soaked in a hot bath, I thought I would sit and meditate near the fire and listen to some music. If it had been 6 months earlier, I would have also lit up a joint. But one of the first things we learned about Oregon was that marijuana and psychedelics were not readily available. For the most part, country hippies got high the old-fashioned way: yoga, pranayama, and natural food. I took off my boots, put on a Beatles album, settled into a half lotus, and took some deep breaths. I closed my eyes and used the familiar tracks of the music as a mantra. Everything seemed perfect. There's nothing you can do that can't be done. Wow, I thought, that's just like something out of the Tao Te Ching. Nothing you can sing that can't be sung. Yeah, that's just like the Tao Te Ching. Nothing you can say, but you can learn how to play the game. It's easy. Now, there was nothing unusual about projecting cosmic significance to popular music, especially that of the Beatles. But that night, I was taking it particularly personal. Nothing you can make that can't be made. No one you can save that can't be saved. Nothing you can do, but you can learn how to be you in time. It's easy. The second time I heard the word, it's easy, I felt as if I would burst. I was no longer listening to the stereo. The song had become nothing less than a direct communication from God to my soul. I was so thrilled that I squeezed my buttocks with a contorted shiver of religious ecstasy. Instantly, shivering pangs of intense tingling exploded in my abdomen and between my shoulder blades. All you need is love. All you need is love. All you need is love, love. Love is all you need. Oh, yes. The more I surrendered to the tingling, the stronger the tingling, and the more personal the lyrics became. Nothing you can know that isn't known. Nothing you can see that isn't shown. Nowhere can you be that isn't where you're meant to be. It's easy. This time, when God told me it was easy, the tingling burst like a balloon at the very top of my head. It was as if an egg of electric fire shattered on my crown and sent scintillating goo slowly dripping over my head. All you need is love. Surrender, I told myself. All you need is love. Surrender. This is it. Let it happen. It won't happen unless you let it. All you need is love. Love. Love is all you need. Miraculously, I took my own advice. I let go. I surrendered to the tingling at the top of my head, and as I did, it became so intense that everywhere it spread, obliterated all sense of separateness. As it covered my head, I could no longer see, feel, or conceive of my head as being anything other than everything that was. Wherever the electric fire touched became everywhere, everything. I was becoming universally wall to wall from the head down. I could feel my lips, but I could also feel the air that touched my lips, and everything the air that touched my lips touched, and on until my lips lost all meaning except to serve as position for the perfect center of the cosmos. As I continued to surrender, it rapidly expanded to the back of my neck and down my spine to usurp the lesser tingling between my shoulder blades. From there it spread to my arms and my hands. All you need is love, all together now. All you need is love, everybody. All you need is love, love. Love is all you need. Almost with a thud, it reached the base of my spine and flowed into my legs and feet. But then I had no feet. The new I reached to the innermost, outermost corners of the universe, of space, time, and energies. The only thing that remained of old I was the part that observes, the part that realizes that it is the one big whatever it is. Realizes that its fiery, blissful consciousness fills every nook and cranny of the one big whatever it is. Realizes that this thisness is eternally this. But old I, the fleshy, fat, and blood-filled tumor at the center of the one big whatever it is, also realized that it was losing itself. Realized it was dying. Realizing that its lumbering crust hadn't taken a breath in a long time. All you need is love. Love is all you need. 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 The one big whatever it is didn't particularly care that old I might be dying. Things were forever dying and being created in the one big whatever it is. It said to itself, old I is lucky to die united with the one big whatever it is. Isn't that the spiritual goal of all old I's? Old I was afraid. Maybe it was too soon to say goodbye to old I. It searched the immensity of everywhere to locate an old I hand or an old I foot. Movement might break the spell of reverie, the one big whatever it is held upon old I. But fearful as it was, old I loved being one with the big one, whatever it is. So much so that it felt like blasphemy, spiritual suicide to leave this bliss. But fear triumphed. An arm moved, and in doing so, voluntarily separated itself from the one big whatever it is. The arm lost the omnipresent tingle. Then the other arm moved. Wriggling feet were the next mutinous angels cast from paradise. I slumped forward and gasped for life, sucking in great waves of stinking air that caused my heart to race like a hummingbird's. The magic fire withdrew from all my extremities and lingered for the last few seconds on the back of my neck. Then it was gone. The stereo was silent. I opened my eyes to discover that a cat had shit on my boots. Okay. Now, for a while, I really do think the Beatles were consciously trying to affect a change of consciousness on the planet. Okay, I think in their visit to India and in their psychedelic reveries and in their ukulele jam sessions, they mused on that possibility that their work was indeed that important. But it doesn't have to be. Look hard enough at anything and you'll eventually see everything. Now, I was trying to think of what kind of pop music would be the opposite of this, of the Beatles art form. And I have to confess, I mean, this is a guilty, almost embarrassingly guilty pleasure. But I enjoy the corny music of ABBA. Yes, dear.
Oh, I was just seeing if you were still ranting, but you are, so...
Yes, dear, I'm still ranting.
It's fine. You just keep at it. I'm going to hang clothes on the line.
Okay.
Between the rainstorms.
All right.
And hope for the best.
Okay.
I'm sorry to bother you. It's been a long time.
Yes, I know. I've gone over a half hour. I'm sorry.
It doesn't bother me at all. It's in privacy.
I'm not bothering you, at least.
Anyway, happy Sunday, everyone.
Okay. I get a kick out of ABBA, and as I get older and older, their high camp, I guess, is what we used to call something that was, kind of so corny. It was really good, but they are really good, and the music, the compositions are, they're symphonic, and they're great. They really are. I'm so happy that they've achieved some level of superstardomness with movies and things like that. But if you are ready to look hard enough at anything, you'll eventually see everything. Now, I couldn't find anything in particular that spoke to me from the lyrics of Dancing Queen or other things, just besides the very beautiful musicality of it. But just look at their freaking name, ABBA. And they even write it with the first B backwards, as if it was a mirror image of ABBA. And if you want to start getting Kabbalistic about it, Ab, Aleph Bet, means father. And BA, Bet Aleph, means to go or to come, or to come father, or return to father. Abba, okay? But Bob, B-A-B, means a gate. Like Bob, all, on. Gate of the god on, okay? ABA also means father, but BB means a hollow or a vein, and is when thinking about the creative power of the Father, okay, the vein is the pathway or the hollow through which the spermatozoon enters into the gate of the door of life, the dalit of the yoni. If you're ready to spend an afternoon with a Liber 777 and a Hebrew lexicon, or a English Hebrew dictionary, Abba, you can eventually see everything in the anything of Abba. But anyway, and of course it means it adds to 6, and 6 is the macrocosm itself, and all of that. But anyway, I know I'm sounding crazy, and I've sounded crazy here for 45 minutes, and it's Sunday. We got to get on with life. The sun is shining here for the moment. It won't be long. But I'll see you tomorrow, hopefully. Until then, continue to be good to yourself, be good to each other. Do what thou wilt, shall be the whole of the law.
Love is the law, love under will. And don't worry, he can't convince me about Abba either.
Oh. Okay, bye.